Welcome back to From Nine to Mom.
where we discuss balancing the 9 to 5 hustle with the beautiful chaos of motherhood. And today we're really excited. We have a guest with us. Krista is here with us. She is a mom of three who has always been passionate about children. After receiving her master's in education, having three kids of her own, and then running an in-home daycare, she was trying to figure out what's next on her path. She's been navigating life and motherhood herself. She was drawn into coaching and now runs her own successful life coaching business built upon women empowerment and building self-worth. We're so excited to have you here. Krista, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, your background, and what got you to where you are today?
Sure, I would love to. First of all, thank you for having me. So I have worked with kids my entire life, whether it be babysitting, nannying, daycare, in-home daycare, and my career path took me to get my master's in education. And so I've been working with kids for a long time. And in doing so, had my own kids and really lost myself in motherhood. And I saw a lot of other moms in the daycare doing the same thing. And then it became a trickle down effect where the stressed moms pass down their anxiety to their kids. And I was doing the same thing. So I stumbled into coaching, and it was exactly what I should be doing. It's my passion. And I love helping moms find themselves again within motherhood, because then again, that too can be a trickle down to show their kids how to prioritize themselves, how to live their best lives. It's my story.
Yeah, I think when we talked before, you had mentioned that life coaching was originally brought to you in a very strange way. Like you met someone and they were like, you should be a life coach. And that's kind of what sent you in that direction.
Yes, I thought, what is a life coach? What does a life coach do? And after doing some research, I thought, well, therapy wasn't going to happen for me because I am not good at science. So coaching was another great way to help people.
Yeah, I think it's so cool how you transitioned. And I know we talked about when you kind of made that transition and COVID being a big part of that. Can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. When COVID hit, I had just had my daughter. She was about 6 months old, and I have two older sons. And I remember I cannot think of words.
We're putting you on the spot.
I know.
Right? I would use alcohol and food to really deal with my feelings. And I found myself struggling hard. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what to do. I was thrown into a whole new world. And it opened my eyes because I said, what am I doing with my life? What do I want to do with my life? And what do I want to show my kids? As I said before, I have two boys, but when I had my daughter, that really shifted a lot for me. How am I going to raise a strong, empowered woman when I myself don't really feel like a strong, empowered woman? So
yeah.
when a person said that I should be a life coach, it really just sparked something in me, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know you had already mentioned kids being such a big part of your life. It was something that your family had, your parents were caretakers and that, and it was your way to kind of financially contribute to your own family. And, so what was that leap of faith like when you were like, okay, I'm not going to be going back to that and starting from the unknown a little bit of not sure how much financially you're going to be able to contribute and all of that?
That's a great question. It was scary. Still is kind of scary, if I'm being honest. It's a whole new world. When I had the in-home daycare, that, as I said, came naturally to me. People needed childcare. I was turning people away because I didn't have enough space, which was really cool. But I also realized that that wasn't my true internal passion, or maybe it was for that time in my life. But I was definitely done by the time my daughter went to kindergarten. And I had a conversation with my husband, and I said, what does this look like for you, for us? And he has a great supportive job. And so he's been super supportive for me. And it's been a whole learning experience. For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah.
What
Go
you were
ahead.
struggling with was something that so many of us struggle with in motherhood. And
Mm,
I know that we've all at some point, Katie, you and I have talked about this, especially when I had Daisy, like have lost yourself a little bit trying to figure out
mhm,
who you are and how do you show up for that person. And when you said, when I had my daughter, it was like, how do I teach her how to be a bold, strong, empowered woman if I don't feel bold and empowered and strong? And I think just
mhm,
recognizing that and saying that and having the guts to go to your husband, right, and say, this is where I am and this is what I need. And then him
mhm,
supporting you is amazing. And it kind of like, it should inspire other women to think about that too. And it's okay
mm,
that education and children were your life before we all evolve and change.
mm.
And that was and it really makes you who you are today to be able to help all these women now deal with their own path, like journey, and figure out
Yeah.
who they want to be. So I think that's awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
and I think that, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to kind of go right into some of our questions because I think that was one of the things Danielle and I were curious about was, what are the common themes that you're seeing with moms?
Mm,
Like, I think one of the things we're all looking to do is relate to one another. So I'm
sure.
interested in what are those common challenges that moms are coming to you with?
Yeah. I see a lot of similarities that moms struggle with, and I think it also stems from just women in general. A lot of confidence issues. A lot of women have found themselves in that second tier, if you will, below their husbands, right? So for a woman to speak up and say, hey, this is what I want to do with my life, or hey, I need to prioritize myself in some way, it feels kind of foreign. And so I help moms work through that confidence, but also work through that speaking up about what they need and want and figuring it out. I think a lot of us go through life just kind of down the path that we're expected to go down and don't really think about what our true passion is or what we really want as women. So,
Do you think, just to deepen that a little bit, we talked about like they feel second tier to their husbands. Do you think that
mm,
that's something that is actually a reality, or do you think we technically like tend to fall into that when we become moms because we feel like that's where
mm,
we should be? Like, do you see any correlations or anything like that?
for sure, for sure. I think it's also like a generational thing.
Okay.
When I look at my grandma, my grandfather was the breadwinner, and my grandma stayed home, made sure that the laundry was done and the food was on the table when he got home at 5. And I saw that happen also with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
She worked part time, but there was still that expectation as a woman and as a mom. So that's a great question because for sure, I think it's just kind of a society generational thing that we see that again we just fall into, right? We
Yeah.
don't even question
Yeah.
it. It's just you're the mom, you're the dad, this is how it goes, or however the family is structured.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've always felt like that too, of like me specifically with me and my husband's relationship, our jobs are very different. And
Mm.
we always talk about like the default parent, like who's the one that makes the doctor's appointments, who's the one
Mm-hmm.
that does some of this. And I feel like it ties to this a little bit in terms of like, who's the breadwinner in some situations or the generational hand-me-downs. And like,
Mm.
for me, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So she handled homework, the, school stuff, any extracurricular activities, all those extra things that come on with it. And it adds
Yeah.
to a lot of the things where you feel stuck in some instances. Cause if you're a working mom, you're balancing work, you still have all these tasks
Mm-hmm.
that, you are taking on. And sometimes it depends on the situation, but it does fall on the moms a lot of the time.
The invisible workload. And that kind of
Mm-hmm.
leans into like another thing that we wanted to talk about because with working and then having all the things you're supposed to do for your kids, it feels like we're always in some state of guilt, right? We feel mom guilt is so real. Like I'm not spending enough time with my kids. I'm not spending enough time at work. It's just constant. So how do you coach the women you're working with through the never ending mom guilt?
That is a loaded question.
It might be different.
Give
for
us
everyone.
all
I
the
don't know. Help
secrets.
us.
What are
Right.
give us a one word answer. Like, how do we solve it?
Grace. Give yourself
Yeah.
grace, right? That's easier said than done.
Yeah.
I think for everybody it looks different. The mom guilt looks different, and the way that we take it on feels different. So I work individually with moms to dive into where that guilt might be coming from. Is
Okay.
it the judgment of others? Is it the judgment that we have within ourselves? Could it be, the generational type thing? So really diving in and figuring out what's bringing that up is huge and important. And then we work through tools to help you better not feel guilty about things. I think I really focus on judgment and curiosity a lot when I have my workshops or when I
Yeah.
talk to anybody, because it's such a strong thing that like is ingrained in us as a society. And for women, as women, we judge other women constantly, but then we need to stay curious because there's so much more than just like what we see from the outside. And once you can take that step back and look at things with more of a curious view mindset, it helps bring relief. It helps you. And that can be anywhere from somebody cutting you off in traffic to, looking at yourself saying, okay, wait, why am I feeling this way? Like, what's going on? Could it be I got in a fight with my husband yesterday? Could it be I'm not feeling really good about myself physically? Like, lots of different things come up. So the mom guilt is a strong one.
And I feel like that comparison or like judgment area, it like contributes so much to that. Mm-hmm. Danielle and I are huge fans of Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory. We actually just did it was our last month's book, and we talked about this. Like just this morning, Danielle and I were talking about it of, that comparison of other people is just really hard to stop. And
torture.
Some of it's okay, but it does contribute to that mom guilt. And I know like when my kids were little, like I was constantly online looking to compare my kids to other things. So not even just my own guilt, like putting it on into the kids of like, are they where they should be? Like, are they talking enough? Are they eating enough? Are they doing all these things? And it just contributed to the guilt as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially when you're like new to it, there's all these questions of, am I doing enough? But then even as they get older, you still ask yourself the same question. It just changes.
Right.
I did that trend on TikTok, Katie. I sent it to you, and I'll make something out of it. But where you search up like what type of mom am I, and the first clip that comes up is the type of mom that you are. And I got the Bad Moms clip of Mila Kunis dropping her kids off with the Arby's, then going to brunch by herself, and like she's late for a meeting, and he calls like, "Where are you?" And she's like, "This meeting's stupid." Like what? It's like, and the PTO.
They ask her, they're like, "Are you coming to the PTA meeting?" And she's like, "No,
not gonna do that." And I think like that movie is so funny to all of us, but like Mila Kunis, she cared so much about what her mom thought, what the PTO thought, was she doing a good job with her kids? And then finally she was like, forget this. Like, what makes me happy? Where do I want to spend my time? Like her kids eating Arby's isn't the end of the world. But when you're constantly being surrounded on social media or in life with the PTO mom, which someday I hope I can also be a PTO mom. Haven't figured out that balance yet. It's not happening. And they've got like the crafts with their kids, and it's character day, and they're all out, and you're throwing something together. It like leads to additional guilt. But it is, why do you feel that guilt? And I think you're right. Like when you deep dive into it, like Mila Kunis was like, I'm feeling guilty because everyone else makes me feel guilty. Like my kids are happy, healthy. What do I care? So I don't know. I feel.
No, that's a great point. Also, great movie.
Such a good movie.
Such a good movie.
So funny.
It made me think about how like some days, I love that meme that shows like the mom with the superhero cape, and it says some days that's how we show up, and other days she's laying on the ground with the cape over her as a blanket. So some days we do show up because we have the energy, and there's just a flow to us, right? We're in the right place, I guess, if you will. The stars have aligned. I don't know. We're just feeling good. And sometimes we can show up as that Pinterest mom, and other times we need to sit on the couch and maybe just watch a movie with our kids. And that's where that grace comes in, because we have to give ourselves grace to know that we can't be on 24/7 for our kids and
Right.
sometimes for ourselves. But working, with whether it be with a coach, with a therapist, working to understand and have those tools is so important and really life-changing.
So when you start sitting with a mom or any
Mhm.
woman, you obviously are deep diving into what they need, and then you kind of get to a point where it's time, and I'm assuming here, to set some
Mhm.
realistic goals or put some things together, action items. How do you set those goals without causing overwhelm or overwork?
That's a great question. I love to give this example about goals versus intentions because what I've been trained to do is core energy coaching. And that is the deep dive into your core. So we set goals, but I like to look at it as setting intention. So I give the example of goals. You set a goal. We set goals at the beginning of the year to lose 10 pounds. And an intention is I want to feel energized. I want to feel, excited. That's more of the intention. And so then you get to the end of, say, a month and you've only lost 8 pounds. When you look at your goal, you kind of go down that failure spiral of I didn't lose 10 pounds, but you don't give yourself the credit for working hard to lose those 8 pounds. Whereas when you look at it from an intention viewpoint or mindset, it's I do feel energized. I do feel great. And so that's kind of what we do with coaching is we set intentions and we set goals, but it's more about how you really want to feel, how you want to show up, and the energy behind that rather than the specific, I want to read 20 books to be a better mom, or I want to make sure every single night I am reading, 2 books with my kids. Like when I think of goals, I think of pressure, like on your shoulders. And so,
Yeah, we have goals everywhere. You just made me think of like we're so ingrained, like SMART goals. Anybody who went to
yes.
business school or went to any
Hmm.
educate, like SMART goals, like they have to be measurable and very specific. And I
Yes.
think that you're right. Like it adds so much pressure, and then you fail once and you
Hmm.
give up. Where I
Yeah.
love the idea, I'm all about energy, Katie, but like the intention behind it. Who cares
Hmm.
if the goal was 10 pounds? If you lost 8 or 15, if you feel the way you wanted to feel, that's the
Hmm.
ultimate goal. And
Right.
I feel like that's going to stick with me a little bit because
Good.
I tend to set goals and then get mad at myself
Right.
if I don't
Yeah.
meet the
Same.
goal. But intentions, I can handle that.
And I think when you set that intention, that feeling, that energy, it is easier to then give yourself grace, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this didn't happen, but hey, I'm not gonna like throw it all away because one day I forgot to do X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
There's more of that mindset, energy feeling behind it.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I think too, Danielle loves like mindset and all of those things. That's like her bread and butter.
Hmm.
But we need to give our listeners some things like what are some daily mindset shifts or habits that you can give
Hmm.
examples of to help moms reduce some of their stress?
Sure. I love just getting your body moving, whether that be, an exercise schedule or even just taking the dog for a walk outside. I think it's really important to get your body moving. So that is definitely one thing to help with your mindset. For me, I have started a gratitude journal every night and a wins journal. So I look back at the day and I look back at everything that happened that I'm grateful for or didn't happen. And then for my wins, I look back at the day to say, okay, what was a small win or what was actually a really big win? Because again, talking about that like failure spiral going down, it's so easy to do. And I honestly, I found myself doing that. And that's why I started the wins
Yeah.
journal because I was like, hey, I was actually super successful today. And I didn't give myself enough credit. I look back, I'm like, oh, I did this. And yeah, actually I did that. So it's cool to have that for yourself to also look back at, but to do throughout the day. It really helps.
Danielle's waiting to show you hers. I can tell.
No,
Do you
I
have it
did
in
grab
front of
something
you?
because a coach told me this. And so I think it's so
Mm-hmm.
cool to work with a life coach, not just a therapy's great, but life coach is actionable stuff. And someone said something to me about like the to-do list, right? I have ADD, so like the to-do list can ruin your life. but I'm also a to-do list person. Like I need my list. I've had an agenda every year of my life. I've kept them all. And I use a specific planner that I've used for a few years now. And it's plum paper, if anybody's heard of it. But I changed my days. It always had gratitude at the bottom for the last 2 years. Because I think I found that like when everything goes to hell, if you can sit for a minute and say what you're grateful for, it completely changes your mind. But I used to have my top 3 to-dos, then I had my schedule, and then I had my to-do list. And every day I would feel like a failure because my top 3 to-dos wouldn't get done or half my to-do list wouldn't be checked off. So I changed it to main goals, today's key events, and action items. And just that mind shift of like how I've written it there makes me feel so much less guilty because action items, you might get an action item at 5:01 and you practice at 5:30. I'm not getting that done today. So I put it on my to-do list. It's not happening, but it's an action item. So if I don't get it done, it moves over to the next day, or, it could be one of my main goals that day. And I've found that just that little shift in how I like prepare my day has changed my mindset. So she just made me think of that because I got that tip from a coach once and
that's great.
It works. Listen to Krista, people.
1%, like you shift it 1% and it can change so much, right? Like it's so powerful, but it's more than 0, even if it's 1%,
I know. And I know, and Danielle has had that one forever, but I know, Krista, you have some other like app recommendations or calendar affirmations. What were some of your recommendations?
Okay. I had it written down and now I don't have it in front of me.
I'm taking notes.
The one app that is free that I highly recommend is called 3 Good Things. And you can set it to remind you every day and it will pop up and you write 3 good things that either you're grateful for, that happened, and it catalogs it, which is really cool because it's an app. So we're always on our phone, and then you can go back and look at it. There is another app called I Am. So what it does is throughout the day, you get to decide how many times it sends it to you, but it's just these I am statements. I am strong and powerful. I am capable. And it's great because sometimes something pops up and you're like, I really needed that today. That one there is a fee for that one. And then I forgot the other one that I had on my list that I was going to recommend.
That's okay. If you think about it, let us know.
I've actually, a lot of people in our workplace have tried to get me into like astrology, and they used to send me like the kind of some affirmations. What does it send you, Danielle? But it's like it sends you some positive things for the day. Yeah,
basically like instead of it just being your horoscope, like you go in and it will tell you like today's was you're talented enough to have options. So it starts with something like positive in the beginning. And if you are into any type of astrology, it is fun. But Katie, even if you're not, that's a good thing to hear,
So, Krista, what advice do you have for moms who are thinking about changing their career or starting a business?
I would say go for it. My advice would be really think about what you want to do and make sure that you're really aligned with it. And if you are, I hate the saying you only live once, but it's that same mentality of, give it a try, because, you don't want to look back and have any regrets. And the only way to do that is to get out of your comfort zone now, is to do the thing that you want now. And again, be aligned, have that feeling of excitement about your job, about what you're doing, excitement about where you are in life. And that doesn't have to start when your kids, go to college. That doesn't have to start at certain points that we think it needs to start. It can start now and today.
And it relates back to what you said about your kids, because I think about Katie, you and I with our stay-at-home moms, and my mom was the best mom in the world. She still is. But she sacrificed a lot of herself. Like she didn't do things that she wanted to do because she thought she had to in order to give to us. And I think that, like you said, that generational came from her mom, so on and so forth. And you're kind of breaking that cycle for your kids. You're showing them that it's okay to do something that empowers you and makes you feel alive. Like, do it.
For sure. Right. You're showing them. And then you're also, don't pour from an empty cup. Like when you feel satisfied and loved and successful, and not only as a mom, but as a woman, then you show up as the best mom. You show up as the best spouse, and you feel good about yourself, and your energy Danielle, you brought up energy. Your energy changes in everything. Even walking to the grocery store, and it shifts, and it's so powerful.
So
yeah,
go ahead, Katie. Sorry,
I was going to say, I want to dive into kind of what you do with moms on a daily basis, because we've joked a few times about like the difference of therapy and a life coach, but I really want to like break it down for people of, where do you start when someone comes and works with you? What is that like when somebody does come and work for you, what you're working with them on, and kind of what's that process look like?
Sure. We start with the ELI, the Energy Leadership Index Assessment. And what that does, it's a questionnaire, and I send it to you, it shoots it back to me. I come up with a debrief, and we go over everything. So it shows you where you show up energetically. The first lower levels are from an anger standpoint, from a victim mentality, and then it works its way up to all the way up to basically enlightenment. Enlightenment. So it's really powerful, because I think as we move through life, we don't necessarily see where we show up as a victim, or we don't really see where we show up as anger, because we are apt to say, well, that person is making us behave that way. That person makes me feel this way. And ultimately what the Energy Leadership Index Assessment does is it shows you that you have a choice. So super powerful. We start that way. And then, just as you said, Katie, not a therapist. I don't dive into your past and work with you on things that have happened in your past. I'm not a mentor. I don't tell you what to do. What I learned in my coaching program was that I have viewed the world through a different lens, through my red glasses, if you will.
Like that.
Thank you. I have viewed the world through a totally different experience. So my opinion and my recommendation isn't going to work for everyone. That you've lived the world and have a different spouse than I do, all different things. So what I do as a coach is pull out internally what it is that you need and want. I ask you open-ended questions to figure out what drives you, what's really bothering you, and why that's bothering you. That's what I do.
I love it. And you had mentioned too that you do different, I don't know if you call them like seminars, workshops, group setting type of things, right?
Yes, I love to speak, and I love to do workshops. I love the energy within the room. We really work together and grow together, and you hear other people's experiences, relate to that, but also we do interactive things that speak solely to each individual. I have journals or lots of different workbooks that we use, and it's super, super powerful. I give everybody glasses, and I ask them to teach the other person or tell the other person that the world is that color of their glasses. And they look at me like I have 700 heads. But the purpose is to recognize that we all view the world through different lenses, and it really helps with that judgment and curiosity to look at other people when you get frustrated and say, hey, they may be reacting in a certain way because of their experiences and their life.
I know it's sometimes people are intimidated by group settings too. So I know you do offer one-on-one kind of monthly programs too, right?
Yes, we work. I do hour sessions or half-hour sessions, whatever works best for your schedule, and or group sessions. So
if someone wants to find out more about what sessions you're running or how to, set some time up with you, where can they find your information?
Absolutely. HudsonLifeCoaching.com is my website. I also have an Instagram. My handle is Hudson Life Coaching. And my email is Krista@HudsonLifeCoaching.com. So
and we'll share all this in the notes too. So
I'll have it all.
Thank you.
I'll have it all linked for everybody. But before we wrap up, our most favorite part of all of our episodes when we have guests on, we call it our shit you can't make up. And it really all stems from things of Danielle and I just giving each other excuses back and forth. And we're like, this is just so crazy. I couldn't have made up this. So we have to hear yours.
Well, let me get out my list. I have 3 kids.
I know, right? One for each kid, probably.
Right? Oh my
At
gosh.
least.
Yes. Well, I do have one. My middle son is hilarious. And every night, if he doesn't get out of his bed to tell us something, he must either be exhausted or something's wrong. So this one night, he comes busting through our door, like so dramatic, opens the door and goes, Mom, Dad, like very serious. And I was concerned. I said, what's going on, bud? And he goes, I have something to tell you.
Oh no.
I think I'm nocturnal. And we just burst out laughing. And my husband goes, yeah, me too, buddy. And he like escorted him back to his bedroom. And it was just so funny.
Oh my
because
God.
the realization of him.
What's the revelation that he's nocturnal?
Yeah, right?
I'm going to use that now. People are like, oh, why aren't you sleeping? I'm nocturnal. Ever heard of it?
It is funny how
Love
kids
it.
like learn something though, and they're like, that applies to me.
Right.
I love it. I'm
Yeah.
using it.
I love it.
That's so funny. Well, Krista, thank you so much for joining us. It was such a good conversation. And again, we'll share your info if you guys are looking to get in touch with Krista. Check that out. But for right now, I think it's time for us to clock out and clock back into the 9 to 5. We'll see you guys
Thanks,
next
guys.
time.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Krista.